Hello, Aloni friends. So good to be here with you today. I'd like to see all your faces, but we're learning new ways to communicate, right? So hopefully you'll watch this little video and maybe learn something that you didn't know before. This week we're going to talk about birds, and I would like to talk to you today about the characteristics of birds and show you some pictures, read a little story, and show you an activity that you can do that I'll email to your parents later. Um, I wanted to talk about the characteristics of birds, and I know that some of you guys know this. Let's see. Let's start with birds have warm blood. Just like us, they have warm blood, and that's how they keep their eggs warm. They have feathers that cover their body. They lay eggs. They have claws or talons so that they can catch food or hold on to branches in a tree. They have two legs, and some of them have really long beaks to find food. So they have warm blood, they have feathers on their body, they have talons or claws, they lay eggs, and they have wings. And some of them use their wings for flying, and some of them don't. There's so many things about birds that are so interesting. I wanted to show you a couple of pictures of birds. I have a bird book that I love, and I mark it sometimes when I find birds that I haven't seen before or birds that I want to know more things about. So in my yard, there are wild turkeys, and I think probably a lot of you have seen the wild turkeys. And Buddy hates it when the wild turkeys come around. He just goes crazy barking at the wild turkeys. And then there are owls, and some of us see them at nighttime. There's a lot of barn owls around our area. And owls and hawks and eagles are the ones that have big talons on their feet for catching little animals, because that's what they like to eat. Some of them like to eat other birds too. Isn't that weird? And woodpeckers. We have some various kinds of woodpeckers. I have woodpeckers at my house. And woodpeckers make holes in trees to store their seeds and nuts. And sometimes they get a little bug in there too for a little extra treat. All birds eat different things, and hummingbirds like to eat sweet nectar from flowers, or maybe you have a bird feeder, a hummingbird feeder at your house. I have one, and I love to watch them. This year, the hummingbirds had two little babies, and it was so fun to watch those little fuzzy babies drinking, trying to learn how to drink out of the bird feeder. I think it's also amazing how all birds make different kinds of nests. They use different materials to make their nest. I was amazed when I found out that hummingbirds make their nest out of spider webs. Isn't that amazing? They use the soft, non-sticky part of the spider web to make the inside of their nest, and the outside of their nest is made with the sticky part of the spider's web. And they stick tiny little pieces of moss on it to camouflage their nest. And it's like silk, so it keeps the baby eggs warm when the mom and dad go to find more sweet nectar or insects. This is a bird that I have in my yard. And look at its eye. It has a red eye. Isn't that interesting? But look at the difference between the beaks on the birds. Depending on what they eat, they have different kinds of beaks. This one is called a rufous towhee. I just think it's such a beautiful little bird. And then there are little finches, and some places have these beautiful red cardinal birds. We don't have those around here, but they're beautiful. And some birds use their beaks. Some birds are just little brown birds, right? All kinds of little brown birds. But the way you tell is by the color of their breast or their feet. You have to look a lot to see what kinds of beaks and feet they have. And that'll tell you a lot about what that bird eats. And I wanted to read you a story about a blackbird because I think it's interesting. This time of year, it's springtime, and a lot of birds are making nests right now. You will see them out collecting little pieces of sticks and straw, maybe some fur from your dog. When I lived in Idaho, I had a big white dog that was part wolf, and the birds would come and pick his fur, his white fur off, and they would just swoop down and scoop up some fur. And across the street, some woodpeckers had made a nest inside of a tree. And the neighbors had a little telescope, and they watched the birds inside the tree as they laid their eggs and hatched their little woodpecker babies. And the whole nest inside the tree was filled with our dog's fur. It was so funny. It's very cute. So I'm going to read you this story about egg, because all birds lay eggs, and we're going to learn a little bit about that today, okay? So here is the little baby birds. The little blackbirds are in a nest made of twigs and grass, and they all look exactly alike. Some birds only lay a few eggs, a few babies a year, maybe even one to 5, 1 to 6. When they are little, they do all look alike. They have no feathers on their bodies yet, and their wings are too short to be used for flying. Fed and protected by their parents, the little blackbirds grow. They sprout gray feathers streaked with brown, and their wings become stronger. Look at that. Mama's feeding her babies a dragonfly. Sweet, huh? The mom and dad both feed the babies when they're in the nest. As they grow older, the little fledglings learn to fly and find their own food. Soon the birds are nearly as big as their parents, and their feathers have changed colors, and they are almost adults. They're learning to eat. Their parents taught them. Adult blackbirds don't all look alike. The female has gray-brown feathers and beak and light-colored breast. The males are bigger than the females, and they have black feathers and bright yellow beaks. Sometimes you see them in the parking lots around town. In the trees they make their nest, and they'll actually swoop down to protect their nest and pick at you sometimes. Like all animals, blackbirds eat, breathe, move about, and produce young. And blackbirds have organs that help them make babies, and these are called the reproductive organs. So inside every bird is where the eggs are that grow into baby birds. If you look at any organ through a microscope, you will see tiny cells side by side. All organs are made up of cells. There are reproductive organs that are special cells that produce life. Females have eggs, and males have sperm. Even though they don't look alike outside, they're not the same inside. Females have different things than male birds. And in the spring, 2 blackbirds, one male and one female, build their nests in a sheltered place in a thicket or a bush or a tree. And then they mate. And inside the female's body, a little egg cell starts to grow. This is what the egg looks like inside. You guys have probably seen when you cracked an egg, the little white part, that's what attaches the baby bird growing inside to the yolk to keep it safe. It's a sticky liquid, and it has a hard shell, and the yolk is used for food for the baby while it develops inside the egg. After she lays her eggs, the female keeps them warm beneath her body. She has to keep them nice and warm in order to grow. The egg's yellow yolk is food for the baby blackbird. The shell and the clear liquid protect the growing baby, and the mother's warmth keep it alive so it can grow. And when the baby bird is big and strong enough, it breaks out of the shell with its beak, and it steps out, and the egg has hatched. So inside, the little baby chick is growing, and this is the food. The yolk is the food that feeds the baby inside the egg while it's growing. And then the baby pecks a little hole in the eggshell from inside and starts to peck its way out. It's amazing because you can hear the babies peeping inside the egg. And you can see in this picture too, there's a little animal that wants to try to get those eggs. A lot of animals like to try to eat birds' eggs. Even some birds eat other birds' eggs. But a lot of them make it and grow into the beautiful birds that we see. All birds are hatched from eggs that had shells. But animals, all animals start as an egg inside of their mother. Kittens, dogs, fish, turtles. Fish lay their eggs on the ground or wrapped around bushes underwater, and turtles lay eggs in sand. But everything started off as an egg inside of its mother. And even you started off as a little egg inside of your mother. And you grew and grew, and you came out alive. So birds come from eggs that hatch and are kept warm by the mother, but other animals come out alive. So I hope that you like that story, and I wanted to show you a few things. I wanted to show you some feathers. This is a feather from a friend of mine's macaw. Nice and pretty, right? All birds have different color feathers. And this is either from a hawk or an owl that flew through my yard. So there's lots of different kinds of feathers. You guys find them around sometimes, and some of them are tiny little downy feathers that keep the bird warm, and some of them are its flight feathers. And I wanted to show you, some of you have had a drawing lesson on making a bird, and I made this little picture just to give you an idea. And I'll send some things to your parents so that you can have draw your own birds step by step. And some of you already know how, and that's great. But just in case you didn't know how, I'll show you how on a piece of on a paper that I'll send your mom and dad. And here's an egg. All birds lay eggs. So birds lay eggs. Birds have feathers. They have feet or talons, and they have beaks to eat with. And they make nests to have their baby, all different kinds of nests. So it was really fun being with you today. I hope you enjoyed the story, and I hope that you learn more things about birds, and maybe even get yourself a bird book that you can see what kind of birds live around your house, and go to the beach and see the birds and their beaks there, and them digging for things in the sand. And I'm going to show you, here's little Buddy. Hi, Buddy. Hi. Buddy liked the story. He's just laying here on the couch next to me. He's a funny little guy, isn't he? Buddy. Okay, guys, I love ya. Hope to see you soon. See you again another day. Adios.